It is 11 o'clock. Man, what a great hour of radio. Hope you tuned in. If not, you can always download the Three Man Front podcast. Bill Bender of the Sporting News. Talked a little national college football landscape. You just heard from Nick Kelly for 30 minutes. Covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. Always appreciate Nick stopping by and seeing us here at Social Taco. And you could do as well. In Landrum, we've already got some new listeners that have made their way to the Taco Terrace. Always great to see. He's even sporting his Tennessee orange.
Yeah, Jim. He's still proud.
Yeah.
Proud Tennessee fan.
Yep.
He's got the block T right there across the chest, and here with one of our great LSU visitors.
So I'm just canvassing.
Yep.
I'm not going to say the names, but we've got a UAB fan.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an Auburn fan.
Yep.
We've got a Notre Dame fan.
Yep.
We got a Florida fan, another Auburn fan, LSU, and Tennessee already in attendance today. So the conference is very well represented.
I'm trying to think of fan bases that have not been represented up here. I know that Missouri is one. Not really surprised. South Carolina, I don't know if we've had a South Carolina fan.
Last week, Poe was wearing a Mississippi State shirt.
We've had Mississippi State. We've had Ole Miss, Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Florida.
Vanderbilt?
I think we did have a Vanderbilt. Oklahoma, I don't think we've had. We've had a Texas.
Yep.
Trying to think who else we might be missing. Kentucky? We have not had a Kentucky either.
So probably Kentucky, Vandy, those two. But everybody else? Okay. Well, one thing is for sure, if you want to have the very best when it comes to whether it's a tractor or a mower, just go north of Jasper on Highway 5, and you're going to find Artec Tractor. Or go to the website, artectractor.com. You know, a couple months ago, as the mowing season began, I was in the mood to get me a zero turn. Knew nothing about them, so that's why I called Jeremy and Greg up at Artec Tractor. They discussed some options for me. They got details about my property, what I needed, and so I decided on that zero turn from Toro from Artec Tractor. Whether it's a Cub Cadet, Gravely, Bobcat, Spartan, they've got all sorts of options, whether it's residential or commercial grade, more brands and better selection than the big box stores. Tractor brands, if you've got that size property, Mahindra, Bobcat, everything from large home acreage to small homesteads to large farms and hunting plots. Expert service department. I'm about to get my zero turn service for the first time. As Jeremy and Greg, they're going to take care of me, and they can take care of you. Go by and see them just north of Jasper on Highway 5, artectractor.com. You know, Landrum, talking to Nick, I thought his comments about kind of being a palate cleanser the last 2 weeks for Alabama fans, I think that goes a long way because Alabama fans, not saying that they feel like they're out of the woods, but I definitely think that they're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, well, and the only picture you have is the one there in Tallahassee, and even if you're playing a Louisiana Monroe and then the following week a Wisconsin team that you view as down, you still want your team to go out there and perform. You hear coaches all the time. It's not about the opponent this week. It's more about us. And that's really been true for Alabama the last 2 weeks. Finding out who this team is after one game, you hate for that to be assumed as your identity. And Alabama going out, dominating. Effort was the first part, but also seeing the offense, the defense function against inferior opponents. And that's what they've been able to do. So now, as that palate cleanser, kind of a reset. It's a new start of the season, the SEC kicking off. All of our goals still in front of us, and if you're Kalen aboard, that's what you're telling your team, and we'll see if that happens. But I didn't hear from any Alabama fans overreacting over the last 2 weeks to what they saw. They know they're seasoned fans. They know that the true test is going to come between the hedges.
Yeah, and moving forward, I think a lot of Alabama people, let's say they lose to Georgia, that doesn't mean the season's over with because that's the first game in conference play, just like last year for the Georgia Bulldogs. They lose on the road in Tuscaloosa. Now, again, they had defeated Kentucky. They already had a win. But an early season loss, they were able to rebound. And I think Alabama fans, more than anything, not trying to say that, okay, we want to win this, you know, from a mental standpoint, we're going to lose the game on the scoreboard, but moving forward, we're going to feel okay. They're not about those type of moral victories. But in regards to this football team, you want to feel good as you're getting into the meat of that SEC schedule. And a lot of people, that's going to be determined on how you play between the hedges.
Well, you feel better about the offense. And Ty Simpson, what he has done, especially in the last 2 games, he's been darn near perfect. And he's exceeded my expectations as far as the precision, the velocity that he gets on the football, especially when on the run. And that's a guy that I never really thought about Ty Simpson being that effective, being flushed out of the pocket or rolling to his right or some of those play actions that we've seen, but kind of throwing across his body and throwing one where a guy, the only guy that can catch it is his receiver in the end zone and going up and high pointing the football. He's in the zone, and that's what Alabama needs. Now the question marks are, can you run the football effectively? How effective can Jam Miller be when he comes back in? And then the defense, can they continue to get better as they did last year? I thought that Kane Womack's defense got better as the season went on last year. That was one of the strengths of Alabama by season's end.
No, and you think about that Georgia game. Remember how they were just holding on for dear life in the second half, how Georgia was just absolutely gashing their defense. But no, Kane Womack got that defense heading back in the right direction, and unfortunately they just did not get off the bus when they got to Norman, Oklahoma. Speaking of Norman, Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Sooners welcome in the Auburn Tigers this week, and that is one of the marquee games, not only in the Southeastern Conference, but in all of college football. Last night on the Brent Venables show, he does a 1-hour radio show every Monday night in which he was detailing the game against Auburn coming up this weekend. Let's take a listen to what Brent Venables had to say, just an overall impression of the Auburn Tigers from the Oklahoma head coach.
I think they're a little better than what they were a year ago. They're really physical. They got great length. They had a couple transfers that came in. Their left tackle is a guy from Virginia Tech, and he's 6'7", he's 350. He's a dude. I know that they feel really good about him. They're good interior-wise as well. Got a really veteran group of offensive linemen. Cobb's running the ball really well. 16th in the country, averaging 240-plus yards a game rushing, and they're converting on 50+% of their third downs, and then they're playing great defense. You know, they're built on the lines of scrimmage. They've got an elite roster. Auburn has never lacked for the ability to recruit. They're in one of the most fertile states in college football, in the state of Alabama, and then their footprint's the Southeast. Yeah. And that's where a lot of dudes are. And they've had a long history and tradition of being able to recruit at an elite level.
That is coming from Brent Venables, who, as we all remember, Landrum, after Brian Harsin was fired, Brent Venables was one of those names that potentially was up for the Auburn job.
Yeah.
Sounds like he did his research on Auburn pretty well.
Yeah, he did. I thought it was interesting. He said, I think they're – and I don't know the context of what he said prior to that. He said, I think that they're a little bit better this year. I don't know if he was talking about the offensive line.
Offensive line.
In particular. But, yeah, this is going to be a tough matchup. For Auburn to face, and maybe it was Nathan King that told us, but based on their struggles defensively and what they've had to face, feel like they've had a pretty good prep for it, whether it was first game against Baylor and then what we saw with Bishop Davenport, the quarterback at South Alabama, and some of the things that they run. But John Mateer is a whole different animal, and you know what he can do. He's been careless with the football already a couple of times, but he's a guy that loves these type of moments. That place is going to be electric. My concern would be Jackson Arnold. And is Jackson Arnold going to come out and try to do too much? That would be the natural inclination, I think, for him to go back and to show the OU fans, look, I was worthy of that 5-star rating, and I was worthy, had you not had so much dysfunction on the offensive side of the ball last year, of being your quarterback. Now look at me. If Jackson Arnold can just be within himself, a lot like in that Baylor game where he was able to take what Baylor was giving him and say, just give me the football. He also seems like one of those gamer-type guys that you want on your side.
Let's hear what Brent Venables has to say about his former 5-star quarterback, now obviously the head man leading the offense for the Auburn Tigers, Jackson Arnold.
It's not about Jackson at all, and certainly we appreciate his time here and his, the things he was able to accomplish while he was here. I love him and love his family. Sharon and Todd, great people. and he got a fresh start, where he's at. But this is about Oklahoma versus Auburn this week, and there will be an Auburn quarterback, and he's very talented, as we know. And but this is about having loyalty for us to find a way to get a win this week, in our opener here in the SEC.
Auburn is now down to a 6-point underdog. It was 6.5 yesterday when we signed off the air, so it is currently a 6-point spread. So a little bit of fluctuation, down a half point. So interesting comments from Brent Venables.
Oh, and just a reminder that last year in Jordan-Hare Stadium, that was one of those ones that just made Auburn fans sick, where you had everything rolling, you're up by double digits, you have missed opportunities throughout the game, and then Peyton Thorne and that interception where he throws it right into the hands of a guy that's standing 5 yards away from him, inexplicably, and it's the pick six. But, hey, for Auburn to be able to go in, you got to do all the things, right? All the textbook things. Take care of the football. You got to be able to run the football, which I think they'll be able to do. It'll be interesting to see because so far this season, and I guess that's been defenses, especially in the Baylor game, of taking away some of those deep threats like your Cam Coleman and some of your other guys. And we're going to see Malcolm Simmons, I think, in this game. But can Auburn effectively create situations where they can throw the deep ball? A lot of times that defense that Brent Venables puts out there, they prevent those type of things.
So, Conrad, I was going to ask you, before it went sideways for Alabama, just kind of describe the crowd and the stadium. For a lot of Auburn people, first time Auburn's ever been inside that stadium, a lot of Auburn people making the trip. What can you tell them in regards to the trip to the wonderful state of Oklahoma?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's a more enjoyable trip for the Auburn faithful than it was for me and my family last year. But no, I mean, it really is. It's a beautiful campus, and I would highly recommend, whatever your travel plans are, if you can get on campus, even if it's just an hour, but preferably a couple hours before, and just take it all in, because it does really feel like, kind of an SEC campus, the way it just kind of blends into the town of Norman and everything going on around it. But for the stadium itself, I mean, I thought the stadium was immaculate. Like, it's a little bit older, and you can tell where there's some, obvious room for renovations and things that they can do in the future. But, it's one of those places where it has a lot of the, I guess what I would call modern-day bells and whistle, but it also has the historical feel to it while you're in the stadium, which was really, really cool. But, I mean, I thought, again, the crowd was great.
What was the tailgating like?
Look, it's not – I'm not going to tell you that you're going to get the same thing you get in Oxford or Baton Rouge or Tuscaloosa or Auburn.
No,
but
are you talking about food or are you talking about talent?
Both.
Okay.
I was talking about food.
Okay.
I was curious if you saw a lot of brisket, like the one that Lincoln Riley attempted while he was still living there.
Of course, Landrum is asking about barbecue.
Of course. Yeah. No, I didn't see any brisket. I'm trying to remember what all they had out there. But no, I mean, it's very similar feel where you just have a bunch of tents set up, a bunch of people grilling. People have their own television setups and things for the people that aren't going to go in the games. But no, I mean, I thought the Oklahoma fans were generally quite agreeable. Like, even once it became clear that they were kind of taking Alabama out behind the woodshed, they weren't overly obnoxious about it. They were more so just, I can't believe that this is happening, just like I had the same reaction from the opposite perspective. So they were very welcoming, very nice. They were just, hey, we're glad that people from the SEC want to come and experience Norman our first year in the conference. So, no, I think it'll be a big time if you're an Auburn fan. I think you'll have a really good experience up there, and I hope that y'all come back with a nice W, unlike Alabama last year. But, yeah, it should be a big time, and go stand next to the life-size Kyler Murray statue.
Well, you never know who's going to drop by.
Goodness gracious.
When it's going to be a big-time show, when we have the legendary former Auburn offensive coordinator, former head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, former head coach of the Jacksonville Gamecocks.
State.
Well, Jack Crowe is going to join us next.
Yes,
on this program.
The next mayor of Laramie, Wyoming.
Yes. And I need to make sure everybody be on standby at the radio station, okay? Please.
All hands on deck.
Yes, please make sure that we don't lose our license. Jack Crowe is next on the program.
Three-man front live from the Taco Terrace. Special guest dropping by. We've already had Nick Kelly, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, AL.com. Legendary offensive coordinator, head coach, just a ball coach. Jack Crowe joining us momentarily. First, I want to tell you about our friends at Stark Exterminators. Fall is finally upon us. That means football season. Pumpkin spice, if you're into that. But it also means bugs. Yep, it's still hot right here in the state of Alabama. Local populations of mosquitoes, fire ants, and roaches, they're still at their peak. Have peace of mind. Our friends at Stark Exterminators, 61 years. They've been family-owned. I love a family-owned company. I love dealing with those types of companies, and I'm guessing a lot of you do as well. 100% of your satisfaction as a customer is absolutely guaranteed. Call today for the free home or business pest inspection. It's really simple. 855-START-NOW. 855-START-NOW, or go to starkexterminators.com. One of their great team members will come out to your home, your place of business, or both. Inspect it thoroughly inside and out. Come up with a tailor-made program just for you. Once again, call today, 855-START-NOW, or go to starkexterminators.com. When you do so, tell them Landrum from Jocks sent you.
So one of the most dear friends of this radio show is Coach Jack Crowe. Jack Crowe, a UAB graduate like myself. Longtime offensive coordinator under Pat Dye at Auburn University, former head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. I'm not going to mention Citadel during this interview, Coach. Former head coach at Jacksonville State.
I thought about that last weekend. Sorry.
You know that's my thing with you.
I got it. I always hear it.
I know. That's the thing.
Paul isn't any better now.
Well, no.
I remember the entire day, and I remember that morning watching that game with my dad as we were getting ready to tailgate, and just couldn't believe it. I remember where I was when that happened, Coach.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And by the way, and I will say this, if you go back and you look at the history of college football in that particular game, if I'm not mistaken, Coach, and you never use this as an excuse, but this is a fact, you had a lot of dudes out in that game.
Yeah.
A lot of your top talent did not play in that game against Citadel.
Plus they went 11-0. They weren't bad either.
No, they weren't. No, they weren't.
But anyway, it was just a day, and the way people listen. I've had a lot of people try to blame Frank Broyles for that, but we had a meeting, and I wasn't good for myself, and so whatever came out of it, the guy that was sitting in the room with us was Terry Don Phillips, who became the AD. And Terry Don is the one that came and said, "Hey, come down here. We got to talk to Frank." That's how it started. And then as I'm exiting, he said, "I should have known better than to get two redheads together."
No,
that was his exit statement out the door, because he cut me a little bit and I cut the rest of it. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
I had a contract, a brand new contract that was only like 17 days old.
So let me guess. Your buyout was like DeBoer's, like $60.3 million.
Came along too late, boys.
First off, I want to tell you it was great seeing you a couple weeks ago at the Coach Safely Foundation Gala. That was a lot of fun with Coach Tuberville and Paul Feinbaum.
I appreciate you, man. You've been there a couple of times when I didn't know what to do with myself. You basically took care of me and Rob one year. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And you carried us. I appreciate that.
You're kind.
So and then you've been a big part of what Coach Clark has done. Bill, who's a dear friend of mine, and I thought that was outstanding. And you've been at some special places, some special times. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. But talk about that organization, because you are a vital member of that organization. You have been vital in regards to getting legislation passed in the state of Alabama, and now you and Bill are marching nationwide to try to get this passed in other states.
Yeah. Bill says, well, we got a doc, which is Dr. Andrews. We got an athletic trainer, which is now Ron Corson and Chad Gilliland, who's out at Andrews in Dallas. And he said, but we got two coaches. I said, no, we ain't got two coaches. That was 20 years ago, Bill. We got a coach, and I'm the politician.
There you go.
And I think I've truly become one. But, there's that in every coach. You just have to just sort of peel it back. And any coach who's not a politician doesn't live very long. Coaches have more press conferences than politicians do. So, anyway, but we're on the verge of this being really, really big. Thank God we got Bill. We got that's Bill right there.
Is Bill calling you now?
You want to hear this?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not a good idea.
But I mean, we talk 3 times a day. But you know, there's probably going to be 14 states, in my opinion. Well, basically, the Southeastern Conference is going to have this rule that's actually going to pilot the rest of the country. Thank God we got Bill and we got some great people. Talked to Richard Shea yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
You know, Richard, he's a big softball. I don't know if y'all know this about Richard, but his daughters. He said one of the proudest things, for example, is he thinks every girl that plays softball at UAB came up with the Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
But these are what my conversations are. He's got some politicalness about him. And my job is to recruit like-minded people who are in a position to do the things you got to do in politics. But I guess Bill's told you, but Kirby, and he's told you all the people that just jumped on board. They're going to do the same thing in every state, you know. People know it. Y'all know it. You're out at the youth organizations all the time. We just need some standards. This started with Dr. Andrews, by the way.
Yeah.
This is Dr. Andrews' thing, and I just rode him, and I brought other people, but it's getting bigger all the time.
Coach Safely, such a wonderful organization. You mentioned Kirby Smart. Do want to get your thoughts. We've seen a little bit of football so far. What are your big takeaways? We'll just stay in the SEC for now.
Every year is not the same for me when it comes to football season. I just have to say this is what this football season. When Bill was coaching, you know, he got it all. You know.
Yeah.
I met him in the morning. We had, you know, just what can I do? It's different now because he's not coaching. I don't have that kind of relationship, and so I bet you I've watched 20 games.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, going back every game till I can't hold my head up. And so I've seen a lot of football. You know, this I guess Pat Dye, you know. If somebody doesn't prove they can run the football here before long, it's going to be wide open. How does Vanderbilt do that? I mean, they just come downhill and they're tough, and you can have all the other stuff you want to, but I think if you go look back at history, and the people that run and defend the run and don't turn it over are the ones that win every league every year. It's not too late, you know, for somebody to all like Alabama. Their running back comes back, you know. But they got one scar, and it's a team just lined up and ran the football, you know, which is all they did. And so I'm not saying something every coach doesn't know. Every coach knows this, you know, but it's who's able to get that done. And I think a factor maybe of not having all your people to ingrain mentality into over a period of time maybe shows up in the lack of mentality for the running game, maybe more glaringly than any other piece with this. Great wideouts dropping there, defensive ends dropping there, but putting a running game together is almost a brotherhood you develop between those linemen and the running back, and it just takes a lot of reps and mentality. So I see some people that look like they're getting there, and some people I don't know if they're going to catch up and have one or not.
I'm just curious, when you were offensive coordinator at Auburn, what was the most pass plays you ever called in a game? Do you remember? What was on like an average SEC game?
If we didn't throw it 15 to 20 times, it was ridiculous. We did have games like when we went to play Florida State. If you were to pull up our stats against Florida State, you know, I was talking to Richard Shea yesterday, who played for Wayne Hall, and I said, I don't know if you know how close Wayne and I were during those 4 years. Doesn't make any sense for the offensive coordinator probably to be that close to the defensive line coach, except he could answer one question for me emphatically. Okay, Wayne, because here's was the proposition. Wayne, we're going to score 24 points. I don't care how many times, but we're going to score 24 points. If you go back and look, we did that about 95% of the time. We're not going to turn it over. Is that going to be enough? Twice a year, he would say, you better get the other plan out, Jack. And when they did, go back and look at Florida State, and every once in a while, you know, It wasn't that we couldn't. It was just what fit winning, which I'll say this. Somebody this morning at coffee right up the hill here at Continental Bakery.
Yeah.
My coffee bunch. You know, they're talking about, well, what about Georgia? Georgia knows who they are and how they're going to win, and they just push the button to win whenever they need it. And I'm not sure how many other people, knowing how to win, are really in a position. LSU could not push the button and run the ball if they had to run the ball to sustain a win. I mean, I don't think they could. Now, how good are you if you can't push that button?
How difficult was it, either as a coordinator or as a head coach, probably even more, to detect if your team was ready to play any given Saturday?
Ooh, that was tough, man.
So you'd have a whole great week of
Because being
practice.
around it, I've kind of learned that. Because usually it's, we had a great week, but I have no idea what's about to happen the next 3.5 hours.
That's why coaches get knots in their stomachs. By the time you think you know, somebody proves you don't know. And every personality on the team is a little bit different. I can remember the first time we were getting ready to play and I saw Bo yawning. He just, you know, I'm sitting there in the quiet hours just before you do this, and you're with your players, and they got the pads on, and you're reading their personality, because that is the moment, you know. And some of them has to play around a little bit to play good. And some of them go into and Bo, he yawned when he got nervous. And that was a good sign.
Wow. Never heard that.
And so I didn't, you know, I said, oh, God, he you know, completely
So
wrong.
when he's yawning, you're
Completely-
like, when he's yawning, you're going, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
What's he thinking
He ain't
about?
even with us, because sometimes he wasn't with us. Bo pretty much decided, you know, what today was about in his world, and that was the world. Pat visited there every once in a while. I'm not sure I was ever in Bo's world.
All right, you got a few more minutes?
Yeah.
Are you
I'm
sure?
good. I'm good, and unless somebody's stealing my lunch downstairs.
No, we'll make
get
sure
you
that's
some more.
Yeah, we'll make sure that's all right. That is Coach Jack Crowe. He's joining us here at Social Taco. More three-man front coming up. It is 11:33. We are live at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. Great first hour of the program in which we had an opportunity to catch up with Bill Bender of the Sporting News, the national college football scene. Nick Kelly from AL.com stopped by, and Coach Jack Crowe is joining us here on site, the former head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, also longtime offensive coordinator under Pat Dye at Auburn University. I was just asking you during a commercial break, and I think you're ready to kind of describe some of the fun and frivolity you had in Norman, Oklahoma, because I believe it was 1981, the school that you were at Wyoming, right?
Yep.
And you guys opened up in Norman, is that right, against Switzer and the Sooners?
Yep.
What can you tell us about Norman?
Well, it's a great place to play. I mean, and they got an SEC kind of loud, responsive. I mean, they know the game. They know when to ooh and ah, which out west a lot of times you don't get very knowledgeable crowds. But they're more like an SEC school to me than even Texas and Texas A&M were. But everything that sort of moved into Oklahoma, a lot of it came through Arkansas. When I was there, I mean, Switzer about half Arkansas Razorback. He did my radio show.
Yeah.
And so it was just a lot of connectivity between the Arkansas program and the Oklahoma program. And Barry just became a good friend. I coached his son. Greg played for me when I was there, so I was a little bit part of that world. I have great respect for them. They are hard. It's a lot like a Western Auburn kind of place.
Okay.
But they got a little bit of that state school in them too. They got all the doctors, the politicians, what you call tea sipping. They got a little tea sipping. Is that a common word?
Yeah.
They got a little tea sipping in them, but they can spend a lot of money. I mean, they knew those oil wells were there for something.
How much does it help a program like that? Because you do have the Oklahoma brand, and I know they've gotten a lot of good players out of Texas, that part of the country over the years. But how much easier does it make things for Brent Venables, that staff, to have that SEC logo when you're walking into a living room these days, even with NIL?
Unbelievable. I mean, Arkansas, despite what their record has been, I was there when we left the league. I'm the guy standing with Roy Kramer celebrating the whole thing. But I will say this, Arkansas would never look back just because of everything that came with the brand. And Oklahoma's the same way. There's only so much they can do in such a small state. It's a fairly rural state. I mean, when you get right down to it, they've got resources. But their brand probably wasn't sustainable in today's world without the SEC. I just think it's very fortunate for them, that they had this, just like it was fortunate for Arkansas.
You told me an interesting story years ago when Arkansas was getting ready to come in the SEC. I kind of take us back to when you're there in Fayetteville and you start getting the word that you guys are going to be leaving the Southwest Conference that was imploding and that you were about to go to the Southeastern Conference. What was that conversation like from the administrators at Arkansas to the head football coach of the Hogs?
Well, it started out covert, as you can imagine. And it started out with Frank bringing me down there in like June. I think it's probably 90% done, if you know the truth of it. Now,
sure.
How he brought it to me was, what would you think about going to the SEC?
So it was already 90% done. He's asking your opinion?
Roy Kramer just wants to call you and talk about it. And so it's in June. This is not, the wheels are not turning on this. But I will tell you something very interesting about this. This is what I said to Frank. Frank, we have a hard time beating Texas around here. In fact, if you eliminated Texas, we're as good or better as everybody else. The problem, Frank, is there's 5, maybe 6 Texases in the SEC.
Great point.
I mean, I knew exactly. I'd been there. I'd won the league. We played all those guys. And we weren't that. And they never have been that. So, I got in his face a little bit. That may have been the beginning of the end because
there's that ginger coming out again in Coach Crowe.
I got in his face a little bit about it, and he wasn't going to be the one that was going to be thrown out to the dang wolves. I mean, they knew it was me. And so, Frank began to get a little more serious with me. But when I said, you know what, Frank, there's one thing about who we're playing, but the other thing is about who we're playing with. And if you look at the history of the talent that's been in this football program right here, if we couldn't go back to the state of Texas and get players, there are just not enough players in Arkansas or a little cut of Louisiana that you just knew where where your people were, where things happened. And I said, if we do this, those high school coaches down there are going to turn on us in a heartbeat. Now, this is what probably we're telling the world because they don't know this. Well, you discuss that with Roy. And so Roy and I have a lot of conversations, but one of the first ones is, well, I told Frank we're fixing to lose our recruiting base. He said to talk to you. He said, well, your position in this is there is no conference when you leave. We left. There wasn't enough to meet the NCAA rules for a conference.
Right.
He said Texas and Texas A&M have already committed that they're going to come right behind you.
Okay, so let me just recap.
And this is a long time before they did. But
so this is
what Roy told me.
This is not what, 1990?
Yeah.
1990, summer of 1990. You're having a conversation with Roy Kramer, the Southeastern Conference Commissioner. And he's basically saying once Arkansas joins the league, the Southwest Conference won't have enough members to continue on, and that Texas and Texas A&M would follow Arkansas and South Carolina into the Southeastern Conference.
And the fight, Pat, turned out to be the private schools versus, because they're all in Texas.
Yeah.
Which makes a whole different dynamic. We're the only one that's not in Texas. But now the state gets divided around the power of the private schools and the power of the public schools, which basically left Texas Tech out there on the fringes because the power was in those schools. What I come to later find out is the powers to be in the state legislature were private. I mean, the mayor, the attorney general, the lieutenant governor, they were all from Baylor.
I was wondering where the power lies. Is it Baylor?
Well, it was at the time. I don't know where it is now, but Baylor just had a really, and TCU and SMU too, they put money into politics. Even though they weren't public schools, they were highly involved in politics. And so this is what I'm told from Grant Taft.
Yeah.
Because I went to Baylor.
Yeah.
And Grant said they got word what was happening, that Texas and Texas A&M were having these conversations. And they went to the governor, and they had built legislation that they were going to divide the oil rights that had only flowed to two schools. Maybe Tech was in there. All the oil rights would be redistributed.
They got their attention, didn't it?
It was over with. Once they knew that the politics was not going to support them, and it died. And I later asked Roy what happened. He said, ask Grant Taft. Well, he probably didn't think I would, but Grant's the one that organized it.
If we had gotten A&M in Texas along with Arkansas and South Carolina there in the early 90s, do we ever get Missouri?
I don't think so. But let me tell you who else they told me was coming was Florida State. I mean, that was what was pitched to me. Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Florida State. South Carolina. Now, again, I think I'm being sold a bill of goods if you want to know the truth of it. I think, let's just keep this guy settled down. He's the one that's going to be on the camera,
Well, I do believe, based on my history and talking to enough people like you, Coach, I do believe that Florida State was very close to pulling the trigger.
At one time.
Around that time of 1990.
Yeah.
And Bobby Bowden decided that was not going to be best suited for his university or his football team. And at that point in time, I think they pivoted quickly because they needed a drafting partner with Arkansas.
Right.
and that's how South Carolina ended up. A few more minutes with Coach Jack Crowe. He's joining us here on site. I'm going to let him eat a little bit here during this commercial break. This is Three Man Front live at Social Taco. A few more minutes with Coach Jack Crowe, former offensive coordinator of the Auburn Tigers, former head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks and Jacksonville State Gamecocks. A few more minutes, and needless to say, Coach, the people on our text line, they're just loving this conversation in regards to how Arkansas came into the Southeastern Conference and the fact that Texas and Texas A&M, as you were told by the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, that they were potentially on the heels of joining the conference as Arkansas was. But we were just talking during the break about Bobby Bowden and the Florida State Seminoles. Yeah. And interesting, you're a Birmingham guy. Bobby was a Birmingham guy.
A legend.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you guys, your paths did not cross until many years later when Mickey Andrews became the defensive coordinator for Bobby Bowden.
Right. You know, Bobby loved coaches. And if you ever made a contact with him, you knew him.
Right.
I mean, there was no professional arrogance to him whatsoever. I mean, he would invite you in, come on into the meeting just as when I got fired at Citadel year, my first 2 calls were from Gene Stallings and Bobby.
Wow.
I mean, Gene was almost the next day. And both of them said the same thing. You're going to go crazy not coaching this year. Come on. Both of them. Now, you would probably be surprised that Bobby would be that way. Gene surprised me a little bit.
Did you have a relationship with Beebs before that?
Yeah, just
okay. So he was offering for you to come to Alabama.
Actually, you know, everybody has a game that scares them a little bit, and his was Mississippi State, which actually years later did get him. So he was right to know who on there was the bump. And so he said, hey, Jack, I want you to come visit. And then he finally got around. I tell you when I'd like you to come is just come down here on Sunday evening before we play Mississippi State, and I'd like to just have, you know, Coach just needs somebody walking around that they can talk to, you know. And so I went down there and stayed. Brother was a defensive coordinator. Yeah. You know, I knew every one of those guys.
Yeah.
Mal, I mean, these are the reason the guys I even got where I was because I had these guys as friends. And Brother and I had been together at Clemson. I mean, it was just all kinds of connections. But Gene's a coach's coach. Now, he's 100% different than Bobby Bowden.
So explain to our listeners, coach's coach.
He wanted to help other coaches be better coaches. I mean, he wanted to talk to you about how you coach. Just like him asked me to come down there. And you know, I'd go to his office after practice and sit there. What do you think? We'd go back and forth. You know, the book that Coach Bryant was given all the credit for writing, Beebs wrote that book. Every word in it. But that's how he thought about the game was as a coach and with other coaches. And so, you know, he would just start coaching. You know, you just start talking coach talk. I mean, just or somewhere in there he said, well, what do you – I said, Coach, I don't know if they'll score. I mean, Lord, help that defense. And so, Gene was all about the mechanics and just the nuts and bolts. Bobby was more on the. He was going to talk to you about how you get the players ready. He was up here.
Gotcha.
I mean, his coordinators ran his offensive defensive coordinators. Beebs was right on top of those 2 coordinators. I mean, a little bit in the Alabama tradition. He knew what they did every day, decided whether he liked what they did every day. Bobby wasn't that way. He's just going to look at the results, which is how I turned out to be at Jacksonville State. I modeled myself after Bobby. And, I mean, you try to have a little bit more of a relationship with the players, and that's what happens when you sort of keep yourself above that.
Yeah.
And that's what I chose to do. Bobby was my coaching model at the end of my career, even though that's not at all how I started out.
I wanted to ask you about we've only got a couple minutes left,
sure.
but I do want to ask you about Houston Nutt.
Oh, Lord.
Because you gave Houston Nutt his start. I know you knew the Nutt family very well in Arkansas, and Houston came onto your staff there at Arkansas at a very young, early age.
And I kept trying to figure out I hired him, didn't know him, but I hired him because Jimmy Johnson, I called Jimmy, and Jimmy, he had been on Jimmy's staff at Oklahoma, had played at Oklahoma State, had stayed on Jimmy's staff at Oklahoma State. And he said, there's one guy, when I left to go to Miami, I made a mistake and didn't bring him, and it was Houston. That's all I needed. So I went and hired Houston.
But Houston's brother, Danny, he was he a basketball coach?
Basketball coach.
Yeah, basketball coach in Arkansas.
And
so were both of their parents were deaf, right?
Yes. His mom's not deaf. His
dad was deaf.
They would sign,
sign language
all the time. But Houston, I thought he was a used car salesman kind of coach. You just throw him down in Dallas, and the next thing you know, you're going to have all these players. And it was. I mean, I'd go to Dallas with Houston. Man, we could get to the top players, and I'd walk in. They'd already think I was something I wasn't. I'd just start hugging people. Now, that's what you have to have when you're there to close.
Yeah.
If I don't walk in here getting a hug, man, what?
Yeah.
Where are we
trouble.
in this? That's what I thought he was. And then there were a couple of times on the board. He sat, he started off. He's a wide receiver coach. He's sitting in the back. I'm sitting up there with J.B. Grimes, and and nut and bolted it. And then every once in a while, looking back on it, he was the smartest football coach in the room. I just had not had that impression of him, and actually had probably pushed him back some that I really regret. But the thing that hurt me more than anything was walking out there to the middle of the field and we beat them
at Ole Miss in overtime.
That one
when you were at Jacksonville State.
And you know what he did, and we still talk now, but I tell you what, as bad as that had to be for him, and it was a turning point maybe for him, but when we finally got to where we were in front of each other, he smiled from ear to ear, and he said, "I am so happy for you, Coach."
Was Masoli their quarterback that year?
Okay. Just won the Rose Bowl.
Houston, some of those Arkansas teams, he ruined some Saturdays around here.
Oh, Lord, man.
Yeah, never saw it coming.
You done got me here too long. I'm going to tell something I shouldn't tell, but I've already decided I'm going to tell it. So Houston calls me because he wants the Alabama job. When Nick gets it, he calls me, Mal. And so I started getting involved in, where Houston's sort of next move is a little bit along the line. And what I'll tell you, if there was one, Nick Saban said along the way somewhere, if there's one guy he didn't want to have on his schedule, because Auburn was really interested in him, don't let Houston nut.
Wow.
I think that was to the agent.
Yeah. Oh,
all
wow.
right.
Mm-hmm. Hey, thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Always a pleasure. That is Coach Jack Crowe. Man, what a great 45 minutes of radio. When we come back, we'll go to Norman, Oklahoma, as we'll preview Auburn, Oklahoma. That's next. back in. This is Three Man Front. We are live at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. Another great crowd, as always. Just can't thank Coach Jack Crowe, who was stopping by to have lunch. Knew we were up here, came up, spent 45 minutes talking ball, man. Can't get any better than that.
Never know who you're going to see here at Social Taco. And don't forget about brunch on the weekends. Alabama fans, maybe a little Saturday brunch with the Tide having the off week this week, 10 to 2:30 on Saturdays, 10 to 2:30 on Sundays. It's the Bottomless Tapas brunch, half off happy hour. Every single weekday, Monday through Friday, from 3 to 6. Enjoy the nice patio weather for right now. You can come and hang out inside. Come and hang out at the terrace. SocialTaco.bar for more information.
Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline is our good buddy, Tyler McComas from Norman, Oklahoma, KREF Radio. We got to hang with Tyler for a couple days in Atlanta, Georgia. Tyler, you're fresh off your trip from the city of brotherly love, a pretty nice trip for the Oklahoma Sooners against Temple over the weekend.
It was oddly, guys, a really fun trip. It was a terrible atmosphere in an NFL stadium at Lincoln Financial Field. There was nobody there. I've never been to an OU game before where there's been an entire empty section. There was an entire empty upper deck on Saturday. But having a college football Saturday in the Northeast, I'm not telling people in Alabama to rush up to a Temple game or anything, but it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It was actually kind of fun.
I don't know how much you learn against a team like Temple, but you certainly learned something against Michigan just a couple of weeks ago. Through the 3 weeks that you've watched this version of Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners, what have you learned, and what's the contrast from what you saw last year?
Well, I think we've learned two important things thus far, and I say two important because I think that they're maybe one and two the most important things about a football team. They've got an elite quarterback. They've got a dude, and not that he hasn't made a couple of mistakes, but he's able to extend plays. He's able to make plays with his feet. He's able to throw the ball down the field. John Mateer is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC and one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and I think a lot of people right now have him at number one on their Heisman ballot. So I think that's been confirmed through 3 games. The other is that this defense is elite as well. I thought it would be good, and I told you guys at SEC Media Day that it was going to be good. My question was it going to be better than last year after losing Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman? I think it's even better than last year. This is the best D-line they've had in a long time. They've got so much depth there. And no, they haven't played a murderer's row schedule up to this point, but they've allowed 1 touchdown in 3 games. And the only touchdown they let up was kind of on a broken play, a 75-yard run against Michigan. If not for the offense throwing interceptions in Game 1 and Game 3 and setting opponents up with a short field, OU has shutouts in 2 of its first 3 games. I don't think that that's opponent-driven. I think this defense really, really is that good. I think definitively through 3 games, you know that OU is going to have one of the best defenses in the country along with one of the best quarterbacks in the country as well.
Tyler McComas joins us from KREF Radio in Norman, Oklahoma. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Tyler, you said prior to the season they would go 9-3. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was my prediction.
Okay, 9-3. Has your mind changed any in regards to that? Do you believe the ceiling's much higher now for this current OU team?
I mean, they certainly look like one of the best 12 teams in the country today, but here's why I'll still stick at 9-3, because the quarterback looks great. The defense looks fantastic. But the big question is still the big question. Can they consistently hold up front on the offensive line? Now, they played well against Michigan, and you give them credit for that. But we just heard 15 minutes ago before you guys called that Troy Everett, their center and one of their team captains, is out for the year due to an injury. They're playing a couple of true freshmen on the offensive line, one being a former 5-star in Michael Fasusi. So I think it's been solid up to this point, but I'll still stick at 9-3 because they're going to face some really good defenses here moving forward. And can that offensive line hold up in SEC play? Saturday's going to be a huge test of that against Auburn. So I like where they're at. I'm extremely optimistic. I'm closer to 10-2 than I am 8-4. But I'll still stick at 9-3 because I still need to see the biggest question of this football team be answered. And Saturday is going to give us another really good idea of where they're at.
Give Auburn fans maybe a glimpse because they saw a snapshot of Jackson Arnold when he was at OU last year. But based on what you've been able to tell, Jackson Arnold, Hugh Freeze's offense, what are you seeing from a young quarterback?
I mean, last year I think the issue with him was he wasn't making the right reads in the zone read game. Maybe some things were there, and he's not making the right decision, and you're going backwards, you're going for negative yards. I think so far it's looked like he's doing a lot better in that regard, making the right reads more often, doing some things with his feet, really giving this Auburn offense a chance in the run game. I think for us, though, and we were all watching that Baylor game on that Friday night, has Auburn really trusted him to let the ball fly downfield? Because as much success as he was able to have on the ground against Baylor, one, I think we say, what was that defensive game plan by Baylor to stay in that the entire game? But he's not going to be able to just run right at Oklahoma with the quarterback run game. This D-line for OU is too good. So are they going to let him let it fly down the field? And is he going to be able to do that against an OU defense that is really, really good? I would say around here, guys, there's a lot of confidence that this defense is going to have a really good day against their former quarterback.
On your radio show, Tyler, how much conversation, like when Jackson Arnold decided to get into the transfer portal, forget about the fact that he ended up in a Southeastern Conference school, but how much animus was towards Jackson Arnold last year for the problems that this OU team had? I heard what Brent Venables said last night on his radio show. He said all the right things, but from a fan standpoint, what is Jackson Arnold to the fandom today as opposed to it was last year?
There were a lot of hard feelings towards Jackson Arnold. And I think the biggest reason why – I think there were a lot of hard feelings towards Jackson Arnold, but I think people also acknowledged that it wasn't all his fault because everything was a disaster last year offensively for OU. The play that really, I think, set this fan base off was the lowest point of the season. And there were a lot of low points last year. You were 6-7 last year. But the lowest point of the season was his fumble against Missouri, and they had the scoop and score to win. That was the lowest point. That was the hardest loss of the season, and it was his doing that kind of ended up with the fumble. So there was a lot of hard feelings during the time. Jackson, Fumble, Arnold, different nicknames that were around here. But I put on our social media page last night, I said, OU fans, how do you feel about Jackson Arnold? And I gave 3 options. I said, 1, wish him well, just not on Saturday. 2, not a fan of him at all. 3, I don't care, just win. Now, we know how negative social media can be, so I wasn't worried about people trying to be a little bit too nice for this. We had over 600 responses since that question last night. I would say roughly 70% of the responses were 1, wish him well, just not on Saturday. So I think it's cooled off a lot because, you've had this nice start to the year. But I do think initially there were a lot of hard feelings towards Jackson Arnold, but people have realized, hey, he had a tough year, but he really didn't have a chance. With the awful hire at OC, with all the injuries at offensive line and at wide receiver, it was just never set up for him to have this great year. And clearly we know what happened now.
If you're game planning against OU, I know this is sacrilege, but for the benefit of our Auburn listeners, you're game planning Hugh Freeze heading into Norman. How do you attack Oklahoma?
I think I would do what we've seen. I think Temple did this and some other teams as well. OU's yet to hit on a big play down the field with the deep ball. And a big reason for that is because you're seeing some rush 3, drop 8, and we're just not going to allow John Mateer to have the big play down the field. We're going to make them put a drive together to go down and score. So I would take away the big play down the field with Isaiah Satania and Deion Burks and say our defensive line is going to be good enough to get pressure on this OU offensive line and to also shut down their run game that is getting better as we move forward, but still in no way a great offense running the football. I think if you can take away the big play by the OU offense through the air, I think Auburn in the trenches could definitely hold up and cause some real problems for OU on the offensive line and the run game.
Tyler, in regards to the rest of the Southeastern Conference, I know Vanderbilt looked good against South Carolina. They've blown out everybody. Alabama's tried to right the ship after the last 2 games. When you look at this conference as a whole, where are you putting the pecking order currently in this conference?
Georgia had that great win on Saturday, but, man, they gave up a lot of easy scores, didn't they? So as impressed as I am that Georgia came back and found a way to win that game, it's, this isn't some dominant Georgia defense. But I would have to put them at 1 for going into Neyland and winning that game. I think I might put Oklahoma at 2, just based on what we've seen up to this point. They're not a team without flaws. They're not a team without questions. But this kind of goes to the question that you asked me. I think just about everybody in the league, if not everyone in the league, certainly has things that they're strong at, but there's some real deficiencies. I mean, Texas' offense is not very good right now. I don't know what's going on with LSU's offense, but they're not very good. South Carolina's got some real issues. So teams that you thought were at the top of this league before the year have shown that maybe they've got some real question marks throughout the first 3 weeks. But I would probably put it at Georgia 1, OU 2, and then I think LSU's offense is going to get it figured out. I really do. Their defense is really good. I'd probably put LSU at 3. That would be my top 3 at this point.
So if you look at the rest of OU's schedule, which I'm doing right now, after Auburn, you got Kent State. All right, win. The big one versus Texas, at South Carolina, Ole Miss at home, at Tennessee, at Alabama, versus Missouri, versus LSU to close out the regular season. If it's still 9-3 projected record for you, or better, where are the potential glaring losses in your mind as we look ahead?
Well, before the year, I picked losses at South Carolina, at Alabama, and then LSU at home. I don't know what Lenora Stellar's status is going to be in mid-October, but if he's out for that game, clearly I feel a lot better about OU's chances. And frankly, even if he is back, I feel better about that game than what I did before the year. Alabama's a big mystery to me. I mean, they didn't look great against Florida State at all, but it feels like they've responded the past couple of weeks and looked like a better football team. And then LSU, I think, by the time that game rolls around, they're really going to get it going. So the conversation all offseason was maybe the most toughest schedule in the country. And I still think it is. I wonder if it's a little bit more manageable, though, than what you thought it was going to be before the year. But if I'm looking at it now, I'll still stick with that 9-3 because I've got to see this team be able to run the ball consistently in conference. And maybe I would change a South Carolina loss with a loss at Neyland instead. But I still think that this team is going to be right there in contention in the month of November for a team that's going to make the college football playoff. And I'm even a lot more confident in that Texas game than I was before the year. And I felt pretty good about it. But if you're telling me those teams were to play on Saturday, I'd really like OU's chances, especially that defense against Arch Manning and that Texas offense.
Taking the under in that one. I don't even know what it is,
for sure.
But I'll take it.
All right, Tyler, are you ready on this Tuesday to give us a score prediction? I think we know that you're leaning Oklahoma over Auburn, but do you think this is going to be a high-scoring game, or what do you think?
I think it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of a 27-14 OU win. So I guess I got a pretty easy OU cover in this one. I just got all the confidence in the world that this defense, the way that they're playing right now, is going to show up and really make Auburn uncomfortable. I do think Auburn's going to hit on some things here and there in the run game, but I think that this defense is ready. I think it's going to be an incredible ask for Jackson Arnold to come into that environment on Saturday and play really well. I don't think the OU offense is great, but I think that they're going to be good enough, kind of like the Michigan game. I'm probably somewhere around 27-14 OU winning by 2 scores.
He is Tyler McComas from the great state of Oklahoma, Norman to be exact, host of The Rush on the Ref from 3 to 6 in the afternoon. Tyler, always appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Be nice to our Auburn brethren as they make the trip there to Norman. Be hospitable, and I'm sure that they were hospitable last year when all those OU fans came in and Auburn inexplicably lost that game.
Auburn fans were fantastic last year. They will only get treated well, just like Michigan fans were amazed 2 weeks ago, like, you guys are like the nicest fan base ever. Auburn fans, if you're coming, just walk by tailgates. People will invite you in. You will be treated extremely well. This is not Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or Athens, Georgia. People will welcome you with open arms, I assure you.
Tyler, thank you for the time. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
You bet.
Tyler McComas joining us. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Higginbotham, they can take care of you when it comes to HR, financial, and all kinds of different services. We appreciate their partnership here on the show.
If you're tired of worrying about your roof, whether it's your family home or a commercial building, Abide Roofing, they deliver tailored solutions for every need. At Abide, it's about more than just a roof. It's about a team of highly skilled local pros who bring their A game to every single job. They work with precision and pride. They use only the best materials. I'm a walking example of that because they put a new roof on my house just a couple of years ago. They have over 25 years of trusted experience. They have the expertise to get the job done right the first time. Had not had to call them one single time after that incredible job they did for me, and they can do that for you. Call them today for a free consultation and estimate. The number's 205-941-6223. There's no obligation, just solid advice. Or visit their website at abideroof.com. That's ABIDE roof.com. Abide Roofing, quality, precision, and customer satisfaction every single time.
Confidence is high in Norman, Oklahoma. We just heard that from Tyler McComas. We get your reaction to what he just said and more. Three-Man Front continues live from Social Taco and here Homewood here on Jocks.
It is 12:20. Welcome back. We are live at Social Taco. Man, what a great show today. Appreciate everybody stopping by to see us. Nick Kelly from AL.com. We talked to Bill Bender, Sporting News. You heard 45 minutes of just incredible radio with Coach Jack Crowe, the former head coach of Arkansas, former offensive coordinator at Auburn under Pat Dye. He had a couple dudes that he coached on that offensive side down at Auburn. I'd say that guy named Bo, he kind of knew what was going on. He's pretty good.
Who knew Bo was a yawner when he got nervous?
I know. I didn't.
Isn't that what dogs do? They yawn when they get nervous?
Think so. I think that's the case. And we just heard from Tyler McComas, who they feel very confident, or at least he does, about Oklahoma against Auburn this weekend.
He felt really confident. Elite defense, and the offense kind of still coming in its own, but he picked Oklahoma to beat Auburn by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, 13 points, right? Wasn't it like 27-14? I think that's what he said.
And you know what? If Auburn scores 14 points, I think there is a better-than-average chance that Oklahoma beats them. They're going to have to put up some points.
Yeah. You know, this month only at Courtesy GMC in Trussville, it's the kickoff sales event, and they're bringing the lowest prices in the Southeast. You can get up to $15,000 off all-new 2025 Sierra 1500, or go bigger with the Sierra 2500 HD, up to $12,000 off. And it's not just the trucks. Drive off in a brand new Acadia, up to $5,000 off in savings. And the all-new 2025 stock Yukons and Yukon XLs are now $5,000 off. They've got only about 10 of them left on the lot. I checked in with Drew Lawley, the general manager at Courtesy this morning. They've only got 10 left, so that means Courtesy has the brand new 2025 Yukon Super Cruise, which is hands-free driving, starting at $69,995. That's right. Best deals you're going to find anywhere in the Southeast is in Trussville, right off of I-459, exit 32 in Trussville, right next to Lowe's. You can't miss it, right there off of I-459. And plus, with every GMC, brand new GMC there at Courtesy, it comes with their exclusive 7-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. So get by and see them today, or visit their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com.
FSU Dave is such a wonderful human being. He brought the shepherd's pie. This is my second helping. It's amazing, Pat.
It's really good.
Yeah, Molly's.
It's the first time I've ever had it.
First time you've ever had shepherd's pie?
Yeah, I've never had it before. It's really good.
He's got the braised beef and lamb that he marinated in red wine.
There's some corn and peas,
you can taste it,
potatoes.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
Really delicious.
Conrad, do you want them to bring you a piece tomorrow?
Nah, I'm good. You can have mine, Pat.
Nah, I'm good. I'm actually giving mine to Landrum and Molly.
You boys just eat the cake.
Yeah. We'll just take BB's cakes.
Leave the savory stuff to the men.
And me.
Yeah.
And Molly.
Yeah. You've got Molly there. But So I was perusing some interesting stories during the commercial break, and I'm not making this up. There's someone on Twitter by the name of Sam Ehrlich. Now, his bio, he's an assistant professor at Boise State. He's an ex-lawyer who now writes about college sports law. And he's following a case in which the NCAA is currently in court, and they're talking about eligibility issues. And he just tweeted a few moments ago that Diego Pavia's attorneys are arguing something in regards to another case, and they have most definitely brought up the idea that Diego Pavia is going to go for another year of eligibility.
Yes, he is.
I'm not making this up.
This is great.
You can follow Sam Ehrlich. It is at Sam C. Ehrlich. That's EHRLICH. So I'm not making this up. It says Pavia's attorney is saying that unless the rules are not found to be subject to antitrust, they're going to stack on a challenge to the red shirt rule and asking for an injunction so Pavia can play in 2026.
This shouldn't surprise anybody. I was not kidding when I said Diego Pavia is going to keep playing. What is part of the fear of ruling in that manner to approve him to go ahead and do it is, where does it stop?
It never does.
It apparently it won't. Amazing.
Now, after Diego plays Alabama and Auburn again this season, I might have a different opinion, but
And
I think Diego Pavia is really good for college football.
And so he just posted this. He said these Pavia oral arguments are not going well for the NCAA.
Imagine that.
So, I mean, this is amazing.
The NCAA is a 30-point underdog every time they walk into a courtroom.
Well, you know, they've had a nice little run lately of winning some cases. But, man.
Yeah, but
those were
not Diego Pavia type cases. That was kid from the University of Tampa or this kid or that kid, not Diego Pavia. And this is the one that got all of the attention.
Yeah. So get ready, folks. I mean, Diego Pavia might be the first 35-year-old quarterback. Do you think Stetson Bennett will come back?
Can he still come back?
I don't know.
Probably.
Perhaps.
Does Stetson Bennett want to come back? I think Stetson.
I think he's good.
He got every drop out of that gas tank.
I think he's good in L.A. So, yeah.
What did you think of Tyler's prediction? You agree with it?
I think it's going to be a closer game than he is predicting.
I would like to think that it's going to be. Interesting what he said about being able to run the football. I think Auburn's been actually pretty good against the run so far this year. It's been the pass defense and some of that mid-level stuff where they've had problems. But can you make it uncomfortable for a guy like John Mateer?
I like Auburn inside the points. Unlike Barrett Sallee's prediction from last week that Wisconsin was going to have the ball in 5 minutes at the end of the game to potentially beat Alabama, I could see that happening for Auburn in Norman.
It would not surprise me if Oklahoma won this football game by a touchdown. But I like you. I don't see it being one of these where it's super comfortable for the fans in Norman in the fourth quarter.
And he just told us
I could also see Auburn winning this football game.
He just told us they're starting centers out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
That's not a small a backup guard. I mean, your starting center is out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, he's
making
kind of
a big
all your
deal.
Calls there at the line, and you have that rapport with your quarterback, who's a new quarterback. Now he's got to find familiarity with somebody new. No, that's an adjustment and something you don't want to see. Just wonder how good was that Michigan team? Because he said the only touchdown they surrendered was the Justice Haynes 75-yard break that he had after halftime in their win over Michigan. But I've been actually pretty impressed with Auburn running the football. Even Saturday, you didn't have Damari Alston, but see the yards that Jeremiah Cobb was able to pick up, where it looked like there was maybe 2-3 yards. And all of a sudden, 23 just keeps his legs going. I think the running game's been good. Can Jackson Arnold, can they create opportunities for him to throw the deep ball?
Yep.
And those mismatches. And they've thrown it when it was available somewhat. We saw it to Cam Coleman, and we've seen it a couple of times. But can you put a cornerback on an island for Oklahoma where he's having to go up and contest Cam Coleman? Because Cam Coleman's going to win 95% of those.
There's no question about that. If you missed any of our interviews, Bill Bender, Sporting News, Nick Kelly, AL.com, Tyler McComas, 45 minutes with Coach Jack Crowe. Wow. We've not had an opportunity to take your phone calls, 1-800-239-WJOX, or the Courtesy GMC text line that we will get to when we come back. We're live at Social Taco. Appreciate everybody stopping by and seeing us. Appreciate FSU Dave, the shepherd's pie that Molly and Landrum are enjoying as we speak. So come on by and see us.
Everybody needs to slow down. I brought Tupperware, and I don't think I'm going to have it.
I know. I see Gringo just came over and got an extra bite. So
golly, man. People eat like it's a funeral.
We're live at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. We'll be here until 2 o'clock here on Jocks. It is 12:33. The legend has made his appearance here at Social Taco. Always good to see Legend. He's wearing a national championship ring. Is that what I saw?
Yeah.
Just a
Got
moment
that
ago?
bling on.
Yeah. You know, a couple Friday nights ago, Molly had an opportunity to interview Pierce Quick, former offensive lineman for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Of course, his brother Riley Quick, Alabama pitcher that was drafted by the Minnesota Twins here in this last Major League Baseball amateur draft. And you had on that ring.
I did.
It was the 2020 national championship ring,
the
right?
2020 championship ring, and that thing is huge.
It almost swallowed you whole.
It did. And I have small fingers, too.
Yeah.
But it was really cool, though.
You do.
Yeah.
Her and Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, but if
Hands.
you don't want big fingers.
Well, no. But just compared to a offensive lineman, they're-
Well, yeah. I think that's probably most of us.
Yeah,
Which is pretty small.
Yeah, goes without saying. The Courtesy GMC text line, we have been so busy, we have not had an opportunity to discuss many of the topics that you guys are texting in, so we thought we would take this segment to be able to get into that.
Yeah, 205-834-9450. We take you to the Jocks text line now. Talking about Ty Simpson, forgot the discussion, but the thing that he's exceeded my expectations, how good, how accurate he's been with precision passes, how the ball jumps out of his hand when he's on the run. And a response to that reminds me of Jake Coker on rollouts, a lot stronger arm than you think. You see any Jake Coker?
Very similar. And he's saying that he thinks Ty Simpson's got a stronger arm than Jake Coker. Is that
Well,
what they're saying?
he didn't necessarily say that, but yeah, he said a lot stronger arm than you think. So maybe he was. I think his arm is plenty strong. I think he's already shown that. Going back to Jackson Arnold going up against that OU defense. This listener says, can't spy Jackson Arnold and play too deep coverage. That was the Baylor game plan. Yeah, it was. And Jackson Arnold consistently had great field vision and knew exactly where to go. Even in the game South Alabama when he scrambled, he did lower the shoulder one time and made a DB pay for it, but he's got that slide down to perfection. And I'm sure Hugh Freeze and the offensive staff love seeing that. Before Coach Crowe came on, there was a over-under on the cuss words that we would hear. Coach Crowe kept it between the lines.
Absolutely. Nothing but a professional.
Now, if he's downstairs at the bar for another 3 hours, we would run the risk of maybe a word getting out sideways.
He's a former football coach.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Who hung around the likes of – it was a who's who of names.
I mean, Barry Switzer.
Yeah. Gene Stallings.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I told him he needs to write a book. I mean,
Yeah.
you just heard some of the stories.
He's got great stories.
And-
This listener says, wow, Jack Crowe interview, it was gold. Loved hearing his perspective.
I mean, there's a story that I have told my teammates off the air. I can't tell it on the air because I don't want to embarrass certain people that's involved in the story. But Coach Crowe told me one of the all-time best stories in regards to playing an opponent and preparing for that opponent and the outcome of the game and what that potentially was going to mean. And I would love to tell it one day, but unless Coach Crowe gives me the okay to tell it, it would embarrass some people, and I don't want to do that. But it's a great story. You remember the story I'm talking about?
Yep. You can do a 4-hour show on that one.
Yeah.
Randy says defense can exceed personnel and coaching. We're about a C on defense, and that's about it for now. Talking about Alabama. He mentioned Grant Taff. Grant Taff was one of the youngest head football coaches in the nation years ago in the 60s at Angelo State.
Grant Taft used to be the president of the American Football Coaches Association, if I'm not mistaken.
Last year, only one SEC team had less than 2 conference losses. This year, maybe none with less than 2 conference losses. Parity? Is that what you're telling me? How soon do you think the NCAA will be non-existent? Over or under 5 years? I would say over. I'll go if we're going prize picks, more than 5 years. They're still going to be in existence. Now, if it's in the same capacity, in my opinion, where it is now, no, but you have too many other sports. You have too many schools that participate in those other sports. Who is going to handle, not just regulate, who's going to handle administrative, championship hosting, coordinating, all of that stuff? There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just the NCAA as a legislative body making up rules, voting on it, and coming after your school to try to put them on probation.
Yeah, I think the College Sports Commission, I think once you get past this football season, I think there will be a lot more concentration on that. I think now they've got these other fish to fry in regards to what's going on with the college football playoff, the expansion, things of that nature. But there's always going to be some type of body that is going to be in charge of rules. Has to be.
You have the AHSAA. You have, my point being, you could replace them, but I don't see anybody standing up and saying, yeah, we want to take on all that they do. It's just mainly centered around football.
Yeah, because they do an outstanding job, and you are a witness to this.
See it every year.
Yeah, you go down to the Beach Volleyball National Championships, and you work that event, and you see what the NCAA does. You see what the NCAA does in regards to their basketball, the men's basketball tournament, what they do. They put on a lot more, but the whole thing about football is the one that generates the most revenue for all the schools. So,
and believe it or not, there's a lot of outstanding, fine human beings that work at the NCAA. I love working with them. Wesley says, I'd like to give my hot take for the weekend. Auburn not only wins, but storms into Norman and wins by multiple scores. It's going to be a heck of a homecoming for Lamar Jackson Arnold. Oh, that's good. Lamar Jackson Arnold.
That's good.
Uncle Jerry from Hayden. Is Dabo on the hot seat? Asking for Tyler from Spartanburg. I don't think he's on the hot seat. If you're Clemson, you're frustrated the way the season started, but who are you going to replace him with?
Where's Tyler when you need him?
Yeah, I don't think he's on the hot seat. Bama hater, where the heck is Mailman? We have no idea. Hope Mailman's doing well. Mailman, if you're listening, if you could just text into the show, 205-834-9450, or give us a ring. Just let Conrad know that you're okay. This one rolling in, Darren from Tennessee. Mark Stoops to Virginia Tech.
Would he take that pay cut?
I don't think so.
I mean, he can stay in Lexington and then get fired and then get paid all that money. They just not coach.
At least you can sell the SEC if you're in Kentucky. I think right now it'd be a really hard sell at Virginia Tech.
Not to mention the fact, don't forget about this, that Mark Stoops gets great basketball tickets.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. And he's got a coach in the same athletic department now that he doesn't despise.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's got a good relationship with the men's basketball coach. He gets great tickets on the floor at Rupp Arena. Well, that's worth something, right?
How many games did you think he went and attended at Rupp Arena when Cal was still the coach?
Probably
those
none.
Two were the odds. But if he did, quietly he was like, yeah, I don't want that to win a game. Gavin, big Georgia fan. Ooh, we're getting retractions. He says, I'd like to retract my statement on the Dogs beating the Tide by 3 touchdowns next Saturday. After the Tennessee game and watching our secondary, I hope we don't get beat by 3 touchdowns.
Oh.
It's already started.
Kind of a changing
It's
of the
already
old
started.
idea there.
There's some vulnerability there with that Georgia defense. Now, historically, Kirby's defenses get better as the season moves along, and they kind of figure out some things. I think he's probably glad that they were exposed the way they were by Tennessee, and then having that off week and knowing what Alabama presents to try to correct some of those things. Keep the text rolling in. We appreciate them. 205-834-9450.
More three-man front. We are live at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. We'll be here until 2 o'clock, top of the hour. Dimitri Ravenos will join us from SEC Unfiltered. All that straight ahead on three-man front.
It's 1247. We welcome you back to Social Taco here in Homewood. Landrum, Pat, Conrad, Molly hanging out, FSU Dave bringing us the homemade shepherd's pie. It's amazing. And the food here at Social Taco is amazing as well. SocialTaco.bar for more information. College football, that's what we've been discussing. We visited Norman, Oklahoma with our friend Tyler McComas, breaking down Auburn and Oklahoma in that matchup, and Tyler revealing to us that it was just revealed to them that Oklahoma's starting center is lost for the season. So not the news that the Crimson and Cream wanted here early in the week, facing this Auburn defense. So, Pat, I think that you could argue the Auburn defensive front, they've been better than expected so far here in the early part of the season.
I know they have one of the top teams in America in regards to sacks. So, yeah, I mean, I think having the starting center for Oklahoma out, I think that is going to bode well for DJ Durkin and his game plan going up against Oklahoma.
Nick Kelly, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide for AL.com, he came by Social Taco in the first hour. We talked about Alabama up to this point and kind of the reset, the reboot, and what it's going to look like in what will be a crazy atmosphere in Athens, Georgia next Saturday.
No, it absolutely will be. Also today, a lot of people are looking in Columbia, South Carolina to see Lenoris Sellers. He had a concussion in the game against Vanderbilt. And according to Las Vegas, they're a 13.5-point underdog, South Carolina is, at Vanderbilt coming up this weekend. We will not see an available.
At Missouri.
Excuse me, at Missouri. Yeah, they just played Vanderbilt and got beat. Black and gold colors.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So Shane Beamer was meeting with the media just a couple minutes ago. Take a listen to what he had to say about the offensive struggles about his team as they get ready to head to Columbia, Missouri.
Last year after Old Dominion, people were ready to fire the offensive coordinator. I got phone calls and text messages about it. When we scored 3 points against Ole Miss, people were ready to fire the offensive coordinator. The year before, when we gave up 40-some points and blew a fourth-quarter lead to Florida, people were ready to run Clayton White out of town. Last year, when we went to Oklahoma, people were disgruntled with the offense. It was kind of masked by us scoring 3 touchdowns on defense, but we didn't play great on offense that day. We went to Clemson and we scored, 17 points or whatever. But my point being, like, every week, that's just what you sign up for. When you don't play well and you don't perform well, the head coach gets the blame, and then the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator get the blame. And as the head coach, it's my job to, take a step back and make sure we're coaching it the right way, calling the right things. That's in all 3 phases, doing what our players can do.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I don't know if I would have gone through my entire history as a head coach there.
Of all the times that they had
and
problems
reminded
offensively.
people of all of their frustrations in
Yeah.
specific games and the lack of output by my offense. Here's the problem for Shane Beamer, though. This team and what they had to replace coming into the season, it was going to be on the shoulders of Lenoris Sellers. Vanderbilt is maybe better than we expected them to be, but Vanderbilt was one of those games you absolutely counted prior to the start of the season. We beat them how many years in a row? We get that game at home. Williams-Brice, going to be a great setting.
A row. 16.
No, they're not going to slip up on us. We know exactly who Vanderbilt is. We know how to do it. Now you look at the rest of that South Carolina schedule, and the coin flip games, if you were giving them the benefit of the doubt, now you're not after you watch that performance. I'm sorry. With Lenoris Sellers, you're still not selling me that they beat Vanderbilt the other night.
Well, it's interesting because he was also asked about Lenoris Sellers and his availability, and he mentions how the SEC injury report will publish tomorrow night. So that was him kind of diffusing that situation. Eli Drinkowitz was having his daily or weekly press conference today, and he was asked by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch how the Tigers are preparing for the uncertainty around South Carolina quarterback Lenoris Sellers. Eli Drinkowitz response, I anticipate Lenoris to play, end of quote. I think that's the way you got to prepare, right?
Yeah. If they bring in, what's his name? Is it
Doughty?
Doughty. I always want to call him Doughty. If they bring him in, you can adjust on the fly.
Boy, he was.
Now, you go in with the mindset of not preparing to face Lenoris Sellers. That's a rude awakening if he walks out there and he's taking snaps to start the game. Missouri's another one of those teams. I know who they played or who they haven't played, but once again, Eli Drinkowitz, not expecting a whole lot out of that group, or maybe the quarterback that he had coming in and Pribula. They've looked dynamic so far.
Very much so. And they don't leave Columbia, Missouri for the first 8 weeks of the season?
Right.
Something crazy?
So I want to go back quickly just to remind everybody about South Carolina and their schedule. At Missouri this week right now, I would say Missouri wins that football game. You're at home versus Kentucky on the 27th. next weekend. You win that one. You're at LSU. You get Oklahoma at home. You get Alabama at home. You're at Ole Miss. You still got Clemson there at the end of the season. I didn't even go through all of their games, but that's a problem. And maybe who was it? Brett Norsworthy, who told us he didn't think South Carolina was going to be the team that everybody anticipated.
I think the word that he used was fraudulent.
Fraudulent,
yeah.
And maybe he said 5-7. Norsworthy might have nailed it.
We'll wait and see. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we'll talk to SEC Unfiltered's Dimitri Ravanos. He will join the program, and we'll get his thoughts on Alabama. They have an off week as they get ready to move ahead with Georgia next week.
Well, we move ahead with the week, and that begins tomorrow. The Finnick, right there near Railroad Park in downtown Birmingham. It's your front row seat to the best entertainment. Massive screens, explosive sounds, every seat in the house. The experience is bigger, brighter, and bolder. And the Finnick's new restaurant menu is certainly worth cheering for, with wings that win MVPs and wood-fired burgers that are stacked like your favorite fantasy team. The Finnick's new 6-day schedule. It includes live acoustic acts Wednesday through Friday and live bands beginning at 10 o'clock on Friday nights, Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, all dedicated to college football and the NFL. They got Sunday Ticket, they got Red Zone, anything you want to watch, the video boards, the large screen TVs, and the great sound. Can't wait to see you at the Finnick. And it all begins tomorrow as they kick off their weeks on Wednesday, and that rolls all the way through Monday Night Football, 1630 2nd Avenue South near Railroad Park.
Great crowd as usual here at Social Taco. Dave from Hoover, he made it in. I'm sure next week will be a lot of fun for him. He's got children that went to the University of Alabama, but he's a huge Georgia football fan. A lot of great new people here at Social Taco. We appreciate everybody joining us. One more hour to go. We'll be here until 2. Dimitri Ravanos is next.